Hey, what's going on, guys? Kalamazi here, and today I want to talk to you all a little bit about the nerfs to the buffs that Blizzard announced a couple hours ago that we're getting on Tuesday to Demonology Warlock. Now, these changes were all announced, I think, on Friday, actually, to AFT Modestro, and about 3 hours ago, they made a post saying, hey, we're going to not be buffing Demonology by as much. We probably made a mistake and buffed it by too much, which we did talk about, to be fair. But we're going to break these down today. I have a handful of sims here, single target, AoE, as well as some interesting ones looking at, like, Implosion in AoE and how it's and where it's not really worth to implode anymore at a certain threshold of mobs, which needs to be addressed as well. Probably need to buff Implosion there. And then compare overall damage, based on the classes and stuff. So we looked at AF and Destro already. If you want to see that stuff, there's a video that came out 2 days ago. If you can watch that, but I'll go through those sims very briefly here too. But the demonology changes. So these changes here were made to reflect this. Pact the Era Druid and Soul Strike are the lesser value abilities they're buffing. Soul Strike's like 1.5%, something like that. It's super minuscule. It doesn't matter, right? I mean, a big part of Soul Strike is just the shard gen that it brings as well. Whenever he Soul Strikes, give or take. We're not even playing in Torrent anymore, where it cleaves in AoE. Even when it was pretty mediocre in the first place. Pact is like, I mean, obviously Doomguard's pretty. It's semi-impactful depending where it procs. More relevant in single target than AoE, but brings okay funnel and M+ and all that. And spreading more Doom. This means you can get more Doomguards out, but once again, not as impactful as the bigger changes here to Wild Imps and Demon Bolt. Now, Wild Imps were cut from 25 to 20, and Demon Bolt has remained at 20, but Wild Imps are they are your #1 source of damage. If you break down dogs and like Dreadbite and melee versus like Felguard stuff, they are a large source of your damage. So still a 20% buff is very, very impactful to your overall damage in single target. Now, there's no AoE relevancy here to imp damage being buffed. Does not affect Implosion. I mean, to a similar extent, Soul Strike and Pact, not really much there. A little bit when it comes to like Doom spreading and, maybe cleaving with Tauren, but not playing in Tauren. And, once again, not a whole lot of AoE relevancy really in these either. And Demon Bolt also, one of your... it's larger than Soul Strike and Pact, at least when it comes to overall single target damage contribution. So we're going to break this all down here, look at sims, and go from there. Very briefly, here's AF and here is Destro, the buffs they got, just to compare and give baseline numbers here. To clarify, you need to compare Hellcaller to Hellcaller. You don't compare Soul Harvester to Hellcaller on top here, because they're obviously different, right? Hellcaller is better. So Hellcaller gained like 2.6 overall, Soul Harvester 2.3, overall DPS gain for Hellcaller 62k, Soul Harvester 52 roughly. I'm sorry, I just woke up. It's only 6 p.m. Got to clear my throat a little bit here. So AF 2.521, Destro sitting at 2.485, gained, like nothing, because you don't only cast Cataclysm or Rain of Fire in a single target. Now, when it comes to Demonology here, I have broken it down into 3 different sims. I have the initial sim where we're at right now, before any of these changes hit. Then I have the sim that was going to be coming on Tuesday before they changed some things. And I have the actual sim that's hitting on Tuesday with the changes. So here is Demo right now in retail. 2.761 using BIS profile. Here's where we would have been with the changes coming in. 7% we talked about. Perfect. I was obviously pretty high. It's the #1. I've gotten it to 2.97. I think this sim's actually running Anilian training over Imperator. I don't think I changed that. But point being, add on 18k, give or take. So about 2.97 is where we were. And with the changes coming in today, clarify again, these changes here, no Soul Strike buff, no Aerodrome buff, Imps in 25 and 20. We're sitting at 2.868, probably about 2.9. Probably about 2.85, give or take. I didn't factor in Imperator swap here. I've been playing Imperator in a single target for a while, but this sim hasn't been. I forgot to change it, no big deal. Probably about 2.885, give or take, which is still very high when it comes to single target, gaining about a 3.9 to 4% buff roughly. And if you break this down and hop into the report here, here's like your initial sim with no changes, like where we are currently before the buffs come in. You can see Imps being about 13.1, Demon Bolt being about 6.6. Jumping into like the sim that would have been if they hadn't changed or reverted some of the stuff, you'd see Imps at 15.3, Demon Bolt at 7.4. What's going to be happening is you're going to be seeing basically a middle ground of the two. Imps at 15.1, still a 20% buff, so still pretty impactful. And Demon Bolt being 7.6, didn't change obviously with that 20% buff coming in. But if you're looking at like Pact of Aerodrome damage, it's sitting right here, 4.6, and Soul Strike is somewhere in here, 1.9. I mean, honestly, comparatively, those two abilities, not even as impactful as Wild Imps and Demon Bolt, regardless, right? So Going from 2.761 or whatever it is to 2.885, probably give or take roughly, depending on imperator talent swaps and stuff, is still pretty impactful. A 4% buff to Demonology is pretty big. If you compare this to the overall simming, like highest simming builds here, you're still sitting probably third highest, about tied with Demon Hunter. Zoom in a bit more here, give or take. Obviously, some of these frost buffs that are coming in are wild. I've seen some insane sims and Frosty K. It's good for them. Upper quartile 3.06, pretty max 4 million. That's pretty wild. Now, the buffs before had us basically ahead of Devastation Evoker, and that was a bit interesting. It's very hard to break down because, like we talked about before, you've got sims and you've got actuality. And in sims, yeah, I mean, Demonology, like, Demonology is not bad when it comes to single target. We're not insane. We're not up here with Dev or Frost. We would have been, but we're going to be probably right in here after the buff. So it's not terrible, like, when it comes to single target. If you go to raid stats here, for example, right? Where's Demonology? It's down here. If you sort it by 95th percentile, it's even lower. It's down here, Ellie and Og, right? Af and Destro are the highest of the two lock specs, pretty high overall. But if you look at their sims, they're nowhere near Demonology. And this is a great example of sims versus actuality. I try to drive this point home every PTR. Some things might sim a lot higher, but in the end, if you don't want that damage profile on those fights, it's only going to be so good. Who's playing Demonology on Cauldron? Nobody. Who's playing in a one-arm bandit? Not many, right? You know, so comparatively, you have to take into account damage profiles versus raw sims. Vexy, a lot of AF, some Destro here. Cauldron, all Destro. AF's good here too. Reverb, a lot of AF. Styx and Rocketmonger, good demo fights. When you get to One Arm Bandit, a lot of AF, some Destro here, underrated as well. Mugsy, a lot of Destro. Gadalywix, a lot of Destro as well. Some demo, probably see more soon with the buffs coming in and stuff. But point being, sims versus actuality, very important. Very important to know how to separate the difference between those two and know the difference, right? Things in sim very high, you have to apply logic and things to actual fights, scenarios, damage profiles, and go from there. So to summarize all this, Demo's probably going to be sitting at about 2.885, give or take, with like BIS profiles, all that stuff. Still gaining around 4%. That's going to put us right around here, above Rider, Frosty K, below Frost, Deathbringer, whatever this is, probably right around Demon Hunter status, which is pretty solid, right? Now, when it comes to AoE, so we have Affliction here. Once again, these AoE sims, you know, you can sim them a million different ways, whether it's 5 targets, 10 targets a minute, 5 minutes. These were run by the Lock Discord and Malakath. I didn't run them. Typically, I run like 8, 10 targets, like a minute and a half, give or take. But regardless, that's what we got. So, AF sitting at about 8.9. Yeah, 8.9. Destro 7.6. Once again, damage profiles, Destro's profile, much stronger when it comes to that mass, huge pull AoE, more withers rolling from Cataclysm applications, all that stuff. Malevolence, very, very strong there. When it comes to Demonology, you have these here. Now, this is a 5-target, 5-minute sim here, same as these two, right? I did run a minute and a half, 10-target sim. We'll look at that in a minute also. The initial changes here, they nerfed Doomguard, or they didn't buff Doomguard. They said they were going to, right? So you can see a bit of a difference here. Obviously, like, you know, this is where we are currently. This is where we're going to be. Having the ability to spread multiple Dooms and spawn more Doom Guards, I mean, that is semi-impactful when it comes to, you know, funnel damage at M+, some prio damage, even though you can't really control where he spawns or hits in a sense. You can see at like a lower target count, like 5 targets comparatively to 10 in a minute here, there's a bit more power there, right? A bit more of a, I guess you can say, you know, I don't want to call it a nerf, but I mean, it's more impactful here in a lesser pull count or lesser target count than it is like 10 targets, 15 targets, because that's, you know, not being spread evenly among 10 targets with Implosion and Dogs and Chomping compared to 5 with, you know, bolts being more funnel based. If you go to a 10 target minute and a half sim here, though, this is where it's sitting. So current demo, 15 million. Monday changes, like the post changes, the one we're looking at right here, coming in at 15.07, and the initial ones were going to be 15.22. So a decent bit less of a disparity between them both here. Obviously, okay, bit of damage, but when it comes to a 15 million sim, not much here, 1% comparatively to 5 targets being 2.1. So on and so forth. So you likely won't see any real noticeable difference in Demonology when it comes to mass AoE, but you probably wouldn't notice it in the first place, honestly, being real. It's very hard to notice 100k when you're doing 15 million, for example, right, in mass AoE. But when it comes to single target, you'll still see a difference. You're gaining, I mean, 100k, give or take, depending on talents and things. Not playing Imperator, probably M+, but honestly, depending where it goes, maybe even do over certain things. But regardless, Demo still looks pretty solid when it comes to stacked cleave. Now, when it comes to imploding and implosions and all that, I want to cover this as well because I think implosion and demonic strength have sort of been left behind when it comes to not buffing them comparatively to other abilities. When it comes to like things like Shadow Bolt buffs, Demon Bolt buffs, other single target-esque based buffs, which we've gotten in the past, not here this week, but I guess to be fair, we did get Demon Bolt, which we've gotten a lot in the past. And when it comes to things like Wild Imp buffs, a bunch too, even other AoE based abilities, right? Without buffing Implosion, without buffing Demonic Strength, they've become less and less and less relevant in their own respective settings. Now, Strength can be used in AoE, can be used in single target, but Strength's not really even worth hitting in single target anymore. I don't have Sims for it here. Malakath told me it's been away for a while. I hit it still, just out of habit. Honestly, it's basically a wash for the most part, but a Shadow Bolt cast or a Demon Bolt cast or whatever will actually do more damage than hitting Demonic Strength in a single target. In 2+ targets, yeah, you want to hit it. Obviously, it does damage, it cleaves, all that, it's very good. But in a single target, being a minute cooldown, sinking with your Tyrant, being tied to it, and being the more single target-esque based talent, you'd expect it to be a DPS game. It's not. When it comes to Implosion, one of the most iconic demo abilities, throwing imps into a pile of enemies and AoEing them down, expending imps. It's like thematically what demo is. Unfortunately, Implosion is not a DPS gain a whole lot anymore either until you start hitting higher pull counts or target counts, right? Now, obviously, in single target here, we have 4 Sims here, 1, 2, 3, and 4 targets. Not worth it to upload in single target, unsurprisingly, even more so with imps being buffed. This was honestly a debate a few I guess patches ago, but I mean, there's been more and more of a disparity there because like imps get buffed and buffed and buffed and buffed. I'm not against that, but you know, it's interesting. I don't really want to be imploding in single target for the most part either way, but still, there's that. Now, when it comes to 2 target scenarios, which for a while the rule has been, hey, if there's 2 or more stacked targets, you want to implode. It hasn't been the rule for a little while now, and it's still the rule. You lose about 132k DPS imploding in 2 target stack cleave comparatively to holding, which does just straight up feel wrong for demonology how it's been. We need to buff implosion to offset all the buffs we've gotten to imps. Now, I don't think they'd even be too OP. It's like, not like we're asking for this to come into these changes here. If they could do it in time and just say, hey, yeah, sure, buff implosion, it wouldn't change a whole lot. You have a bit more burst, but at the same time, like you can hit these numbers regardless without imploding. So you're not saying, hey, buff implosion, we're going to nuke the world, right? You can gain 130k, but it's not imploding, simply, right? So 2 targets, not a DPS gain. Unfortunately, when it comes to 3 targets, it's also not a DPS gain anymore due to imp buffs coming in, albeit it's very close. It's already going to be hard to break this habit. 2.565 versus 5.650 versus 5.612, a loss of about 0.7% DPS to implode versus not. And obviously, if you have like a trial mob in this pack, you're definitely not imploding. You're blasting that mob down for sure. But habit-wise, I mean, let's be honest here. It's going to be a hard habit to break. Now, when it comes to 4 target, this is where things get a little bit more interesting because it is a DPS gain, but you're gaining about 130k DPS, but you're doing essentially 272 overall when it comes to that, for example, right? Now, if we jump into this, for example, let's go into the higher demonology sim here. When you're imploding, we can hop down here, find implosion. Implosion is a 6.5% DPS. I wouldn't say gain. It makes up 6.5% of your overall DPS. However, it's not just it's a flat 6.5% DPS gain. No, it's because if you end up just not imploding in this sim, other abilities that hit harder or do damage as well take implosion's place, whether it be GCD wise or imps living longer and doing more firebolts into a target, right? It's not a flat 6.5% DPS gain. So depending on what you're doing, honestly, it's still debatable if you want to implode. I mean, you're going to implode in 4 more targets. That's going to be like the suggested ratio, but there's a bit more of a debate here, depending on what you want to do for certain things. Like if you're in like a hard prio setting with 4 or 5 targets up, and I can just dump more bolts or more single target-esque effects into that target, I might just choose to do that over imploding. So implosion needs a buff. I don't know the exact modifier by it, maybe 10%, 20%, I don't know. Just run sims, or Blizz could run sims to figure it out. But it does put Demo in an odd spot of like, okay, well, let me relearn to not implode anymore in AoE. And a lot of this is happening because of the imp buffs we've gotten, you know, many patches in a row. I think we've gotten imp buffs probably 7 or 8 times since, you know, Dragonflight began, which, to be fair, I'll take. Imps are cool. I like the damage, but it has skewed things a little bit towards the not imploding, seeing where it goes, AoE end of the spectrum. So, yeah, that's basically that. Like I said, I mean, in single target, like, we're still going to be 2.885 roughly. I forgot to change to Imperator here, which puts you roughly right around here with Demon Hunter. And obviously, Demo's profile, stat cleave, very, very strong. Fights like Gallywix, honestly, I would expect to see a lot more Demonology probably played here when the buffs come in. I'm hoping to play it probably on Mythic when we get to it in a couple days, give or take. I wouldn't be surprised to see Demonology gain a lot of ground on fights like Rick Reverb, even Sprocket or Vexy, not Sprocketmonger, Vexy and Rick Reverb. Depending on how things go long term, faster kills, faster barrels dying, or barrels dying faster, ads dying faster. Demo can just, you know, stack things up and implode. And obviously, implosion might not be a gain if there's 3 or 4 targets, but if you want that snap cleave, you know, it is. This is an interesting guild name. Soul Shard, what are you doing, my man? Anyways, that's it. That wraps it up. I'll put links to new sims down below if you guys want them. And yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching, guys. Wraps it up. Don't blame me. I don't want to hear it. Don't blame me. Wasn't my fault. Listen, it's my job to report on the Warlock stuff, all right? I don't want to hear it. I don't know what to tell you, but honestly, like, jokes aside, I'd expect any class that was maybe overbuffed like that to probably be brought down a little bit, give or take it. And let's be honest, I mean, for raw single target, the buffs probably were a bit much. I'll take it. I'm not going to complain about it, but we're still going to be pretty solid when it comes to single target overall. It's just this raid tier doesn't have a whole lot of stack cleave. Demo's profile wasn't really one of this tier compared to, like, Vault or Aberrus or Mirdasil or even the most recent raid, Spiderland, Big Mommy Land, whatever it was, the Spider Lady. Wasn't as strong this tier. A lot of Desher, a lot of Demo niche cleave. So we'll see where it goes, but yeah, that's that. If you guys want any week wars or add-ons, links to Twitch and Discord down below, as well as up here. And also a massive thank you to my patrons, like every video. Thank you for all supporting on Patreon, guys. I greatly appreciate it. Allows me to keep doing what I'm doing for y'all. Getting Warlock nerfed, right? And jokes aside, yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you, guys. If you're looking at supporting, there should also be a link up here, as well as down below in the description. Heads up also, this coming Tuesday, I'll be streaming Tuesday. If you guys are watching this video before it happens, I'll be starting later on in the evening, though. My guild is raiding, I guess, tomorrow. It's Monday at this point. We're raiding tomorrow evening, which we usually don't do, to kill Mugsy and get some galley poles in and stuff. I'll be on before the raid begins, doing a key or two, but for the most part, it won't be an afternoon stream starting. It'll be a little later on in the evening, but I'll be there regardless. Buffs are coming in, and we'll play more keys this weekend as well in Plus, because I think Demo's, I mean, Demo's good in Plus. It's still the best spec in Plus for Demo, or for Warlock and all that, but I want to see how Desher was too, because Kata and Brandfire buffs, not too bad. So, thanks for watching, guys. I'll catch you again soon on stream. Peace.